Hello everyone. How are you? So I don't know how many of you just saw the Twitch Sings ad, but we've decided for the next Q&A, we're just going to sing it. You get to sing along with us. It's going to be fantastic. You're going to love it.
It's going to be a sing-along.
It's going to be a sing-along.
One of the most ridiculous things that we've come up with. Probably.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so welcome to another episode of the Crowfall Q&A, starring Mr. Thomas Blair, lead designer.
And J. Todd Coleman, creative director.
I like that whole trade-off on introducing ourselves
that?
things. We also have Pan, a.k.a. Miss Massey here, off camera.
Off camera. Watching the chat.
Watching the chat.
Great questions.
We've got CC in the corner. We've got our marketing VP in the corner, who we've dubbed CC. I don't even quite remember why it came up on a couple
it was
episodes
because
ago.
of Seinfeld and Coco.
Okay.
Remember that when
it was something with crowd control as well. She was asking a question about crowd control, and we were.
It was
maybe
George's
I just called
boss.
you T-Bone, right?
That's the episode. That's the Seinfeld episode.
Maybe I just called
and
you
don't forget our
CC.
video producer.
Oh yes, and Michael's in the other room. Hello. He does it. Oh, there you go.
There we go.
Okay. So, all right. So you want to start hitting some questions?
Yes. Let's
Real
take these
quickly,
questions.
just for people who haven't watched one of these before, explain where these questions come from, because they're obviously not coming from the chat channel yet.
We usually do take some from the chat channel as well. The first ones come from the forums, usually from the Dev Partners forums.
Correct.
Which is some of our hardcore and longtime players.
Yeah. In
usually
fact,
what
why
happens
it's called
is,
the Ace Development Partners Q&A.
Yeah, and those questions also, in fact, it was a Kickstarter reward, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
But usually what I found is if the question gets asked enough on the general forum, then somebody will then take it and surface it to us and pull it out of the noise, because it's really impossible for us now to keep up with just all of the noise. I mean, we do the best that we can. Val's better at it than I am, frankly. But that does help us make sure that really pressing questions do kind of bubble their way up to the surface. We can't always answer them, because sometimes that mucks up plans that Debbie Sue, CC might have for, no, you can't talk about that yet, that's coming later. But usually we try to be very, very transparent.
A lot of times it's burning issues.
And so the Ace Dev Partners Forum is for backers of the Ruby level and higher.
Is that right? I can't even remember.
Yes.
Yes.
So, there we go. I just wanted to put that in there.
Yep. All right. So, but after we do these, then we'll open it up to some general chat questions as well. We're happy to take those and answer what we can. So the first one is a UI question about debuffs and buffs. Basically, what I call generally hanging effects, because it's not just debuffs and buffs. It's also seasonal effects, things like telling me if I'm sprinting, like all the things that are currently hanging on my character.
Yep.
What are we going to do from a UI standpoint?
So in 590, we removed the one that was above your head.
Yep.
So because it was just so much noise, and they were trying to lighten the amount of noise that you have over the character's head.
Okay.
And we tried to move them up to the new bar at the top, which shows you what you're targeting.
Yeah.
So once you have a reticle over it, you would see what debuffs they have.
Yeah.
But not 100% of the time see everybody's debuffs.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So
So
it's just overwhelming.
unfortunately, it didn't make the 590 push.
Okay.
So it was like halfway done, didn't make QA in time, and that's how some things go sometimes.
Okay.
So we didn't remove it on purpose. Like, we clearly want to tell people what buffs and debuffs other targets have.
Yeah.
It just didn't make the build.
Okay.
And that happens sometimes.
Yep. So cool. Okay. The next question is about our strategy game, and it is basically a question asking, hey, what happens if Uncle Bob sets too early?
Yep.
So for those of you going all back to the Kickstarter days, Uncle Bob is the scenario that we acted out on our Kickstarter video, which is saying what happens if one team gets above and beyond everyone else to the point where it seems insurmountable, and the other players say, I just don't care, and they quit. So we tried to put in a mechanism called the capture bonus pool that would allow the people who are not ahead, basically those who are behind, a chance to catch up by adding a multiplier on the points they get for capturing in the later seasons.
Right.
So what's funny is mathematically, it actually is, that part is working pretty well. It's probably not enough. We need some other capture mechanics as well. In fact, what I really want is some different vectors that you can use to catch up as opposed to just the exact same one. So other activities that I could do that would generate points. In a game like Catan, it might be, or Tobiko or something like that, it'd be whoever built the longest road at the end of the game gets extra points. Whoever amassed the most science cards would get that bonus point. So other kind of non-linear objectives would be really helpful. The other part of this, though, is a messaging and a balancing issue, right? Is if it turns out mathematically my team is in third place, but we still could win at the end, that still doesn't matter if I don't know that and I don't believe it when I first log in. So that is a problem, right? And that still is definitely an issue right now, is we have this 4x multiplier that happens at winter, and you may be in number 1 place, but you're sitting on a big juicy target that's worth 2 million points, and that could make times 4 is 8 million points, and I could actually shoot from third into first place. That's really cool. But if nothing in the game tells me that is coming, if I don't watch every single Q&A with the developer, which I don't know why somebody would not, they're amazing, but let's say that's the case, then they may still psychologically go, I'm so far behind, and they alt F4 and they're done. So that's definitely a problem that we need to resolve as well. So I think it's a two-front solution. Is alternate means to get points and messaging, and then maybe even just balance. We may just decide, hey, let's change in spring. Let's make it to where the points collected in spring are so low that we just don't get these massive differentials that early. So I think there's a layer of balancing that we need to go and do as well. That's a general statement across the entire game, but there's a layer of balancing that we could do that would help solve this problem in particular. So.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Did I cover it?
You covered it.
Did I cover it, CC?
Yeah, that was, and that was some of the feedback we had from the guild that visited us last week. Was it is possible to win via taking those late season targets.
It is. But if you don't know that and you quit early, it certainly is not possible.
It feels like every other game that didn't put in a capture bonus.
Yeah.
Right, because not a lot of games have done that.
So we need to do that.
The point is, don't quit early.
Well, it is, but saying that in a dev chat's not going to do it, right? I mean, at the end of it, especially once we go live and we have a much greater scale, greater mass of players, we can't rely on these mechanisms of communication.
It needs to tell you in
to pull people through the game. We need to have the game pull you through the game. So, okay.
All right.
Next question: what happened to disciplines in 5.9.2?
5.9.2.
There's a lot of stuff, and some of it's in and some of it's not, right?
Actually, I was able to put stacking back in yesterday.
Okay.
Engineering gave me the go-ahead, so that was the piece that was going to be missing.
Okay, so let's go through. What are all the things that are different on disciplines in 5.9?
Okay, so now there are all tiers of quality on disciplines.
Okay.
Right? And the vendors sell every white discipline, or every discipline available at white quality.
Okay, so you can just go to a vendor and buy the discipline you want. There's no
Correct.
more RNG drop related to that.
However, you now have to have the quality of the discipline be equal to or higher than that of your current vessel.
Okay.
So that means that if you have a white quality vessel, you can use any white quality discipline from those vendors.
Okay. Yep.
The second you upgrade to green, blue, purple, or orange, you now need that quality of discipline or higher to put it into that vessel.
Right.
It just doesn't let you socket it in there. Which means that once you play, once you start getting into the more advanced game, then you need to go out and look for those drops.
Right.
So what we've done for that, because disciplines now drop at blue quality, which means how the heck are you going to get purple and orange quality? There are recipes now that every player has access to where you can combine 3 of a kind, and it will
make the next tier up.
It will make the next tier up.
So this is step one in a multi-step process now, which is we really need to go in and deal with the over-reliance. We had looting put in, and it was easy to stick things in tables, and we needed to get stuff out into the economy, so we just kind of stuck a bunch of stuff there. Right. But it's obviously not ideal. You guys don't love it. I don't love it either. So now we're going to go through and start to loosen that stuff up, find alternate ways to get things. And then once we have those in, we can also back off and rebalance and make that stuff much easier to find. So that's not just a discipline statement. That's kind of an across-the-game statement. I do know that's aggravating, and I apologize for it. I promise you we're going to fix it. So those of you who are just like, God, this part right here is super grindy, and this part's super grindy. We do want to have some activities that people can go out in the game and do, even if there's no PvP activity going on or there's nobody else online. Because if one person logs in, can't find PvP activity, and then logs out, 5 minutes later, another person logs in looking for PvP activity. They could have found it if that first person had stuck around. But he didn't because there was nothing to do. So we do need to have some of these activities, but we don't want to have any of them be gating. They should all be additive. So that's what we're trying to get to.
And
disciplines is part of that.
You should be able to go, and even in God's Reach, level a white quality vessel to max level,
Right.
and try out whatever build you want to try out. And you can play with that white quality vessel.
Yeah.
Right? Great. But if you want to get into the advanced gameplay and you've got a guild that's making you high quality vessels,
Right.
you're going to
Or
need
you can buy them on vendors, or I still think we need to have other mechanics that allow you to get it if those things don't work. So we're working through all those issues right now. So part of the problem is the interdependency, part of the problem is just the rarity of the loot drops. We're going to take a pass on all of that stuff. So so don't try not to judge it too harshly. I say that knowing that you will, and you probably should, but be patient.
But it will make it such that you can get a max level character with disciplines fairly quickly.
Yes, and the other piece that's coming soon is randomized loot, right? Which is an alternate way of gearing up those characters.
Correct.
But I think my guess is we have some major updates coming on that, so CC would probably prefer us to wait and announce that all at once as opposed to... So that's a little teaser on that stuff. Yes, it's coming, and it's actually really cool. I've seen a lot of it on Blair's machine, which is the first step to me seeing it then
in-game
on the dev server and the test server, and then live.
Yep. And so you were going to see the discipline changes as soon as today or tomorrow.
Yeah, the first ones will be coming out with the next update.
Yeah,
So,
in
cool.
5920, which is primed for launch.
Cool.
All right. Next question.
When are we going to be able to reorder characters in the lobby? The reordering characters in the lobby and giving the ability to put name tags on them, both of those are things that we absolutely need. They're just not super pressing, so they're stuck somewhere in the priority list for some engineer, and they haven't bubbled to the top yet. So,
I mean, it's a challenge for polish issues like that. It's
right.
just, where do we put the polish issues just so it feels polished enough, but not like we're neglecting all the
Right.
polish
Well, when
issues.
you have basic things that you clearly need but don't have, like I can't sell items at vendors, right? You have basic stuff like that. That takes priority because without it, the gameplay loop is kind of broken. That takes priority over stuff like this. Definitely agree that's nice to have. Definitely want to have it. We'll get to it. It's just kind of lower down the priority list.
Which, speaking of sell items to vendors, that's also
also in this version.
That's also in
right?
592.
Yeah. I actually finally got in and just tested it. I did put a bug in about 5 minutes ago that if you drag a stack over to the vendor, it sells the whole stack, which is fine. You get the value for the whole stack.
Okay, it just doesn't tell you.
But it doesn't tell you.
Okay.
So I didn't know, am I selling one or am I selling the stack? You're selling the stack. So we'll clean. There's a little cleanup, but it actually worked, and that's another checkbox, just one after the next, right?
Split your stacks before you sell them right now. That's the message.
Yeah, which we also don't really tell people how to do.
Shift right click. Most of
there you
you
go.
should probably know that.
Whatever.
Okay.
Okay, next.
Can we get a timer that tells us we're about to be logged out due to inactivity?
That's another one. That's
We should
actually
clearly do that.
Yeah.
Again, polish issue, and I'm sure there's a ticket in for that.
Yep. That's another one that's kind of like, yes, we know we definitely need it, but it doesn't take priority over some of these other things that are game breaking. So, next question.
Next question. See, some of these are really easy.
Yeah,
Yes, we can.
Yeah, we want it. We agree with you. We'll get it to you. Critical hit chance caps at 50% through combat passive tree, weapon stats, dexterity, etc. Do spell and abilities also cap at 50%?
Yes. So the reason we call it a cap is because that's a cap, and no matter how you get the stats, be it from equipment, be it from a buff, be it from a passive, they all go into that same bucket. Now, we do have cap increases, and those will specifically say increases your cap by whatever. And then at that point, it goes from 50 to, let's say, 60.
Yeah.
Then however you get that extra 10%.
And our general design philosophy then is to balance for the caps, but allow multiple different avenues to get to that cap, because then you have choices.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So
and that's how we've been pretty much doing everything. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of people will try and min-max to the nth degree and put as much into, let's say, crit, for example, as they can. And the cap actually saves us from that and tries to save you guys from yourself, where you can go, okay, I've got this much crit, now I can look at raising another stat, rather than making just a pure 100% crit character.
It's point spiking is what we've always called that. Is I'm going to find one thing, I'm going to put every single choice into that thing to max it out to a point where it hopefully will break the game.
Yeah, you're basically going to break the engine.
You're looking for. So this is a way to basically shortcut that process and say, all right, there's a bunch of avenues to get to whatever cap it is.
Correct.
So now the question is, what's the most efficient way to get to that cap that leaves me open to then try to achieve other caps as well?
That's the way the whole system works.
That's the way the whole system is set up.
So there you go.
So, yep, so there you go.
So that's why caps are important to us.
Yep, there you go.
All right, next
All
questions.
right. What's the reasoning behind removing character names? It's confusing trying to remember who's whom with multiple quality vessels. So there's actually two questions in here. Let me tease the two things apart. So one is what's the reason for moving character labels, which I covered earlier in question number something.
3 or 4.
3 or 4. Which is I need a way to label these things because they're confusing. If I have 5 centaurs, they're all a little bit different. Let me label them and reorder them. That we absolutely need that. The reasoning on not having character names is because character names adds another level of being anonymous into an MMO. If I can basically roll up a bunch of different characters, all of different names, it makes it much easier for me to get in and grief and troll people. So that said, I have gone back and forth on this one time to time because I do see benefit in it. I like it as a general concept, and there are times when I get in our game and I really miss that emotional connection that comes from giving this character this name. So I do have times when I've reconsidered that, and the typical way that games have handled it in the past is you have 2 levels of messaging. You have, I can whisper directly to Blair's Ganeshan, which is named Bob. Hey, Bob, blah, 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 and it goes directly to there. Or I can do /tell or message at Blair, and then it routes it up to the account level and bounces that message down to whatever character. So there are ways around it from a communication standpoint to where we could just get it down to discussing only the should characters be anonymous or not. If we did open that back up, it would immediately then beg the question of, well, why are you making my guild determination at the account level then? Because I might have multiple characters who are in different guilds, and that would be a much deeper, like just making characters have separate names, and those names are what's displayed. And so I could be playing with Bob not knowing he is also at Blair. We could potentially do that. The second part of that, which is let his character Bob be in Guild A and let his character Susan be in Guild B, that would be really, really painful and expensive. So it's one of those questions where could we do it? Yeah. Do we want to do it? I'm not sure that I like it. That's a little slippery slope, I know.
And we don't have
and I generally don't like slippery slope arguments, but in this one it does feel like it. Anyway, so I'm open to discussing it though.
From my perspective as well, we don't have the critical mass yet where people are doing, like, I'm harassing you.
Yeah.
And I'm just making a bunch of characters.
No, we don't get a lot of that.
We don't see a lot of that because a lot of people are currently invested. They're really trying to help.
Yeah.
And
they don't want to be kicked out.
Correct.
Because they paid to get in.
Right.
So that helps a lot too.
There's a higher buy into the table stakes, for example. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we don't see a lot of the behaviors that as soon as I can make 55 different character names, I'm just going to log them in chain and just irritate the hell out of you, right? Whereas if you always see my name, which is as you currently do, you're like, I see you, man. You're the same dude.
For sure, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
going back to the question that was asked, the question seemed to me it was more about labeling, and that we're going to fix for sure.
Yeah.
The follow-on question, which wasn't asked but I thought was kind of implied, is why not allow different why not let me play different characters anonymously on the same account? And that's the reason why. So I think that's probably good.
That's good enough.
Good enough? Mm-hmm. All right. Question number 8.
The death penalty is too severe right now.
Yeah, as of the last build, that was certainly true. As of the new build, that's actually not as bad.
Correct.
It may still be too severe. I don't know. I want to test it some to find out.
Yeah.
So why don't we go ahead and explain what was done in this latest version?
Sure.
Because that'll help you guys can be the judge.
In the version that they're currently playing, so we went ahead and updated how you die.
Yep.
Right.
Death and respawn was changed.
Completely changed.
Generally speaking, I think for the better, especially now that the new crow flight controls are in, because that feels so much better than it did before.
Right. So previously, you would take a hit when your character died.
Yep. In decay, you mean. Durability.
Durability
of all your items.
All equipped items.
All equipped items.
All equipped items took the hit, including your jewelry, etc. And then, if you chose to use the magic tow truck, right, to get your corpse back to you, it was a 25-point hit. The death was a 5-point hit.
Okay, so we had a total 30% decay. That is
30 points.
That's pretty brutal. Oh, 30 points.
30 points.
Oh, 30 points.
30 points.
Okay.
30 points. So
I was going to say, holy crap, that's
No,
even worse.
It wasn't 4 deaths. It was
because my recollection was that jewelry would only last through about 8 deaths in the last version.
On 30,
right?
at 30 points and with a 250 durability on jewelry, that was about 8
Okay,
deaths.
that's what I was going to say. Wait, 30 is even worse than I remember.
No. It was about 8.
Okay.
So, and that was a remnant of our old tow truck system.
Yeah.
Right?
We got new death and respawn in, but we didn't change all the rules that were wrapped around death and respawn. Same with Death Shroud, right?
Correct.
We had a Death Shroud that would be hung on you
for 3 minutes.
For 3 minutes that basically kind of like nuked your characters.
So in 5.9.2, those values are now 10 when you die.
Okay.
And tow truck isn't even a thing anymore. Right. So just don't even think about tow truck anymore, because part of going back into your vessel and returning to life is going to a statue.
Yeah, so you have a travel time to get to the statue.
Correct.
There's a blackout timer on being able to go from crow form back into normal avatar form. That's really not noticeable, though, unless you've got repeated deaths in a short period of time. That's what it's for. Right. It's to keep people in a siege from just immediately respawning and running back into the siege.
Yep.
So it is a little bit more punishing. That's a common mechanic. It's a little more punishing.
We don't want Zerg mechanics going on in sieges, right? So that's to combat.
That's one of them.
Right. However, if you were to resurrect me on the spot, then I will take a Death Shroud timer.
Okay.
And that's a 60-second one. It's been reduced to 60 seconds.
Okay.
And I believe it's 50% on the max health now instead of the 75% it was.
Okay.
So it's still, we're trying to really be cognizant of, we don't want Zerg mechanics.
Yep.
Right. And we don't want player reses abusing that as well. So we'll see how that works out.
Okay.
And that's all in 5.9.2.
So death penalty is not there for if you fly back at all, right? So that's if you fly back to the Death Shroud, excuse me. The Death Shroud is not there at all anymore. The DK values are vastly better.
Correct.
Right? 3 times better, I think. And is that all of them, or is there anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay.
That should be enough.
Real quickly, while you guys are talking about this, Galvia said combat res gives you Death Shroud?
Yes. Combat res gives you Death Shroud.
That way you can't just instantly bring people back up in the
correct.
But it doesn't last very long. Right?
But it lasts a third of the duration it used to.
Right.
Right. So we don't, again, we're trying to prevent full health on the spot. Res is swinging the tide of battle.
So this was a first cut to go through, and we changed the mechanics fundamentally of death and respawn. So this was now adjusting the rules after the fact to account for those changes. The first round of adjustments probably won't be perfect. So the next step will be to go through and adjust them again to get them more in line with the behaviors that we want. But I think the general direction clearly was death is way too painful, so we need to go ahead and pull back on that. And the DK was overall way too painful, and that was throwing off the balance of gear collection, gear
or do I even wear gear?
Or versus PvP. And it was really fundamentally broken, so we tried to nudge it back to try and get it more into balance. If we need to nudge it again, we will.
Because we clearly want people wearing jewelry, and they just weren't because it was
right. It was just too painful. Right. In fact, I think that having gone through the game a little bit lately, my general feeling was across the board, man, our game is just painful. It's just it's kicking me a lot more than it needs to, and it's throwing off the entire reward cycle.
Yeah.
Some of that is just we hadn't gotten to things yet, like the inability to sell anything at any vendors.
Sure.
Right. So I've got all this crap in my inventory that I don't care about yet, and it's not worth it for me to sacrifice. So what do I do with it?
Yeah, I mean, we're just feeling the pain of how we developed, right?
Yeah,
we took the riskier things on first.
Yep.
We focused on combat and PvP. And we always knew we would get around to selling and all, like just a lot of these little systems. And now is that time.
Yeah.
And we're just kind of like in our heads, we're already like, hey, why isn't that there?
Yeah.
So
and as a result, it makes it a painful experience at times. So there you go.
Okay.
Where do the crafting recipes go?
Yeah. So everyone was curious, where did all the crafting recipes go? Because they were on major disciplines in the 5.8 series.
Right.
And then in the 5.90 series, they are on the crafting stations.
Yep.
So you can just, if you need to make a belt buckle and there's no blacksmith around, you can go take a whack at making a belt buckle.
Okay, so this is the second piece. So we had two very distinct things that I'm kind of looking at right now at a very high level. And one is I just mentioned, which is general level of pain doing things in the game. Like, I'm trying to do X. Why is doing X so painful to get to? because X is the fun thing that I want to do. So having some gates and progression is fine, but making it to where it feels painful is not fine, and we've got a lot of that. So I'm going through now and trying to take a hatchet to all of those areas and try and get that stuff a little bit more under balance. The other piece was the interdependency, right, which is if I want to do X in the game, I literally cannot do it without the help of one or more other players. Right. And if I can't find those other players, then I'm just stuck. I hate that. That really bothers me. And it's our design has a lot of that in there. We were way too heavy, I think, in our original design on assuming that. Part of that is the old school nature of MMOs did require that. Right. And that was part of our original vision was let's return to the days where no person is an island. That's good, but I think we overdid it. I think we went a little overkill on it. So now we're going through and looking at it and saying, okay, we went way too far in terms of interdependencies. Let's nudge it back over so that the interdependency is still there, but it's more additive and optional. Right. It doesn't stop me in my gameplay experience if I can't find that person.
So I can still make a belt buckle. It's not going to be a good one, but I can at least make the thing that I wanted to make. Right.
Move forward.
And then if I want to get a good one, I can search around to get it.
And then the loot will also mean that I actually can get a good one. In fact, I even get a really good one. Can I get the best one in the game? No. But I can get a really good one. And so it's multiple layers of these things. And then as we start to pick up more player mass, those interdependencies will become less painful because there'll be more players around doing that stuff. So there you go.
Okay. Questions from live viewers.
Okay, so we're to the point now. That was the pre-packaged questions. How much time do we have? That's about half of it. So great, that's perfect. So
12 minutes on the big timer right there.
Oh, we got 12 minutes. All right, so that was about 2/3 of it then.
There you go.
So what else do we got? So Val, you ready?
Yes, I am ready. Marth has been asking me privately in the last couple of days and also during the stream for the status on centerpieces for the EKs.
So the castle is the biggest one that we've been working on, and the art is done. There was no collision, and I don't know where it is in the pipe. Do you know?
I do not know where the castle is.
Okay.
I've seen it. I walked through it on John's machine.
Right.
Which is always step one, is seeing it on somebody else's machine actually working. But I have not seen it on my machine, which is the next phase.
Yeah, but I guess the important point, we haven't forgotten. Those are all still in the pipe. We are moving forward on them. They aren't in the game yet, but they are making their way through the process so that they will be hitting you, hopefully soon. So.
Okay, next question is from Logos. What's the status on Dregs?
So I've actually gone through and we've completed the Dregs GDD. It has already gone through TDD. I actually answered a couple TDD questions this morning that I need to run through you. I'll explain that process because that's inside baseball. So game design document, it usually starts with a vision statement. Then Blair and I will sit down and go through and create a game design document. That game design document gets passed over to engineering, who is assigned to an engineer, who will then go through and write a technical design document, or TDD, that explains here's how we're going to implement that. Right. Inevitably, going through that TDD process causes us to recognize that there were some holes in the GDD. That it's like, well, how do you deal with this edge case? And so it'll have to go back then to GDD and we'll have to adjust. That's one of the things I was dealing with this morning. For example, the question that came up was how are you going to deal with multiple levels of sub-guilds, and is that a thing? And so I was having to go through and piece that out, because there's always a layer of technical interface, which relates to player experience, and how do we need the design to work, and those things all are negotiated to where they're all happy and in sync. So that one is now moved from the TDD is done. Got a few questions left. Once those are done, it'll get sign off basically from everybody. It'll get sign off from art, it'll get sign off from design, it'll get sign off from the production, it'll get sign off from engineering. Right. And then it actually goes to implementation. So it's right on the brink now of implementation. There's the short answer. The too long didn't read answer.
But now you know how the process works.
It's coming in implementation, so it's around the corner.
Okay, and Logos also had a follow-up question about when will we have longer campaigns?
So I would love to do longer campaigns. Right now, I feel like our campaign scoring mechanics don't really support them, especially since we had the question earlier, which is, hey, by spring...
It's decided.
It's already decided. Right. So until we solve that, having longer campaigns I don't think makes a lot of sense. I mean, technically, we could do them right now. I could fire up a campaign right now that lasts a year if we wanted to, but I don't think anybody would play it, at least not past 3 or 4 weeks. Right. So we need to hit that first, and then we'll do longer campaigns.
We also don't generally like to for example, in this case, 592 is coming right in the middle of a campaign.
Yeah.
Which generally, if there's a whole bunch of balance changes, it's going to skew things a little bit.
Yeah.
So we're not too keen on doing that either.
But yeah, at the same time, and some of them we can't. Like there are some changes that we just simply cannot do. Like, hey, if we make this change, that's going to have a ripple effect that's going to break all of the campaign maps. Okay, I guess we'll wait on that one until the campaign is over. So there are occasionally technical issues as well that gate when things come out. So.
Okay, Nebula 3 wants to know, will Rune Hunting be back like in Shadowbane?
So we have a update coming pretty soon that talks about runestones and how they're made and where you find them and all that stuff. Jack is working on it. Before we put it out, there's some design questions that, in light of this pass we're doing right now of game level of pain and RNG and interdependency and stuff like that, I want to talk through some of that because I don't want to put out an update and then immediately change it out from under you guys. So that's a little bit in the process right now, but we will be updating on it soon because there are some changes coming there. So
I just want to say, GOB Hungry has a question about refining, and we actually have an update or some information coming about that next week or the week after with Valcro.
Yeah, I've actually seen a lot of the refining stuff, and it is really cool, and you guys are going to like it. Now, I'll say the point of the refining is to offer other mechanics outside of harvesting, PvP mechanics primarily, as a alternative means of getting resources that can be then fed into creating items. So that's the high level. You guys have been asking for this for a long time, so I'm super excited that we're going to get it. The pieces that were missing were like the notification that the motherload of stuff has dropped.
Correct.
Right? Like here's a bunch of potential resources.
The mine is about to respawn.
Yeah,
or whatever,
So and without that, what we didn't want is stealth players botting sitting right next to it to grab the stuff. And then part number 2 was making it to where when you pick that stuff up, you can't recall, because what would happen right now if we just put it in as is, people would put bots right next to the thing. The second it pops, they would grab it and recall out. And they basically would ruin it as a PvP loop. And the whole point of this is to create a PvP-centered means of getting those resources. So if it doesn't serve that purpose, I don't want to put it in a halfway state. So
because then it's just kind of free stuff.
Then it's just free stuff for the people who do that, and that's not cool.
Yeah.
That's not fun. So that's not driving engagement, which is what we want. So so that, I don't know, do you know the status of those 2 pieces?
I put the tickets in yesterday, so they're going to be floating on Joseph's boat.
All right.
And then we're going to need to get it in, and then design will do some stuff, because ultimately you picking that up is supposed to be you picking that up to caravan.
You are right. Eventually that should
to
be
a
caravan.
keep or to the refinery,
to
to break it into resources or to put it in your walls.
Yeah.
And that piece, we have to wait until we have the caravans. But ultimately, it doesn't mean that you mount up and you ride it over there and you're done.
Cool. Okay, so Valerie's going to come, other Valerie's going to come and show that off to you guys. When's that going to happen?
Like I said, it's either next week or the week after.
Okay, so cool. So we'll be able to not just talk about it, but actually show it to you. So that's pretty cool.
Okay, so Cerelia wants to know, with the new embargo, where will be accessible chests to store things? And from where will be your embargo bank accessible?
Okay, so with the new embargo system, which will probably have another write-up coming on that, you do have to go to dedicated locations. There will certainly be one back in the temple, right? In fact, you can already see there's an area in the temple that is a banking area, so it'll be down there. We will also put them out in the worlds. The question is going to be, where will they be out in the worlds? I would expect that we'll probably put them with forts and keeps, because otherwise it's going to make it really, really painful on the crafters, right? So we will likely also create a new outpost type that allows you to do it as well, or add it to something like the towers that we have right now. Right. So that's still a little bit in debate, but the point was to move that stuff over to where it was at dedicated locations. I want to be careful when we do that we don't take what is already a painful situation for dedicated harvester crafters and make it way more painful. So we need to balance that out. So I'm mindful of that. That's definitely a risk.
It wouldn't be a Crowfall day if we didn't ask Frostweaver.
Oh yeah,
I've seen more stuff.
You have seen stuff in the game.
I've seen stuff.
I haven't yet.
I helped Mark with some stuff yesterday, and it is underway.
Yep.
I mean, there you go.
Which means it's actually it's made its way through art now, right? The art pieces are mostly done.
The initial art pieces on this one, which is animations and the other fun things we did for this class.
Yeah.
The second art pieces are the ones that come after design and engineering, which is effects and sounds.
Oh, yeah, okay. That makes sense.
Okay, so Scree said, will you do an article preview of the Frostweaver like we used to do?
Of course we will.
At some point, yeah.
Yeah.
At
Absolutely.
some point. And Navy Styles is really stirred up about class problems. He's made a lot of comments, but I haven't actually seen a question. Navy, do you have a question?
Well, let's talk about class in general, right? So we do have at least one designer, Hallish, who spends pretty much all of his time working on class issues. That said, we do know that there are still some high nails sticking up that need to be addressed. And I get that from you guys' standpoint, you're in and you're actually trying to play the game. And so you're like, I don't know why they haven't fixed this and why they haven't fixed this. And it's just because we're struggling over here on our side to try and get the game done, like get all of the pieces in.
Right.
And usually you go back and you do the balance stuff after you have all the pieces in. And so that's why there's a natural disconnect that happens there that usually doesn't happen. It's actually a problem for crowdfunded games more than it is a problem for other games, and it drives me bonkers, to be honest, which is I feel like a lot of times we have to serve things out of the kitchen that are not fully baked, and I feel really bad because you guys try it and you're like, this isn't fully cooked, and I'm like, I know, but my other option was not to give it to you at all, which meant you'd have gotten no update, and you guys are really antsy and bored and you're not seeing any progress. So it puts us in a position where I don't know how to solve that. So
well, and the class stuff, I mean, that's where we started.
Yeah.
Right, was combat and the classes, well, there are archetypes of them. But anyways, all those powers, normally you have somebody basically doing weekly maintenance on all of the super high nails, right? But now that we've had to shift to finishing a bunch of other stuff that we had hanging out, Hallish is building Frostweaver. I'm building Magic Loot. There's nobody working on classes unless it's a dire emergency.
Right, no, that's true. That's true.
And
He is working on powers, like I said, but he's not working on balancing powers.
Right.
Right now he's working on implementation.
He's working on Frostweaver.
Because if we don't get Frostweaver out, then we're going to have to talk about it again in the next Q&A video, and the one after that, and the one after that.
Yeah, I think that's what's getting Navy Styles upset, is that it seems like we just keep adding stuff instead of balancing what's there. And then even Galvia said, I had some questions about, can you talk a little bit about the philosophy of changes being done to druids? Their effectiveness has been reduced by a pretty significant amount. And with more nerfs coming, can we expect some of their broken abilities to be fixed to bring them up a bit more? Which I think kind of goes in line with what Navy Styles is saying.
Yeah, so yes, we could absolutely stop adding anything new to just go and deal with the balance issues, which would make one player happy and a bunch of people pissed that the Frostweaver still isn't in the game. So we only have so much time in the day. We do the best that we can to try and balance the needs for everybody. But inevitably what that seems to do is leave everybody feeling not particularly satisfied.
Moral of the story.
30 seconds left. That's I think, about the note to end on.
Vision is just what's the vision for open world and exploring in the open world? Where do you plan to go with that?
So I have long-term plans. So the great thing about the procedural world generation, so I'm going to go over time because you didn't leave me any time to answer the question.
Oh, it's got bars now.
I'm going to go over. I'm going to go over time. So long term, the great news is the procedural world generation actually allows us to do massive changes in a way I've never seen before, which is really cool. The downside of it is it's like AI, right? It's dumb. At the end of the day, it only is as good as what you put into it. So, for example, I'll give you an example of the good and the bad. I had them generate a new God's Reach for me because I said, man, this God's Reach is way too spread out. And so when players are coming in right now, even if there's 100 people in the God's Reach, they're spread over 15 worlds or something, and I don't see anybody in the temple. And I don't even know why we have this many worlds. We don't need them. Crush me down a little God's Reach. Give me a mini God's Reach, because this was really supposed to be Shadowbane Newbie Island. Let's crush everybody down and make it more like Shadowbane Newbie Island, and then I'll custom go through and craft that experience to be much cleaner, and we'll have a lot more control because it doesn't open up like that. We'll do that in the campaign worlds. So the great news of the procedural world generation is that I went in and made that request, and literally 2 hours later, I had a God's Reach that was pushed down to Newbie Area plus one world. That's really cool. Like in other games, I would have said, hey, I need to undo the last 2 years worth of world building, and they'd say, okay, that's going to take another 2 years.
Right.
So that's really powerful. The downside is I came out of the temple, and the first thing I hit was an Iroquois war tribe of rank 3. And I got stealth attacked by 4 or 5 Iroquois who immediately gutted my character. Because the AI, just like AI, what world building, the procedure don't know, the procedure don't care. If you told the procedure crush it down to a world, it's going to do that. And if you don't specifically tell it, and I don't want the newbies to be killed immediately when they come out of the gate by a stealth Iroquois war tribe, the algorithm doesn't know. I'm sorry, I'm facing Devi Sue because she asked me the question. So that the good and the bad of that is, yeah, we can do massive changes very, very quickly, but the bad is it doesn't have that curated feel. So my goal over time is to kind of continue to expand down the line of making that procedural generation more and more powerful. Specifically, I really want biomes. Like I want desert worlds and swamp worlds. Our universe right now, we actually do an amazing thing, which is we can generate an infinite number of worlds and they actually are unique. That's awesome. The downside is while they're unique, they don't feel that different. They feel very samey same. And so that's a technical design term, samey same, by the way. I think it's French originally. So they all feel very much the same. So what I want to do is start to have more variety there. I know Melissa has a huge push right now on visual storytelling so that it doesn't just feel like wild, open, endless frontier. These feel like lived in places that are either abandoned or have been scavenged or have been burned. She wants to tell stories there, which I think is awesome. I want more variety. But then we also need to work on that curation. We need to make it to where the areas that are created are more quality and you actually feel like it's an area that you're stumbling into where somebody really lived here and that story played out instead of it just being, I mean...
Endless forest.
Endless forest isn't really particularly fun, you know? All right, so I think that's it for this month. I want to, you got the outro stuff.
Yeah, we got the outro.
Do you want to do it or do you want me to do it?
Okay, subscribe to our YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook channels.
And every channel that we're on, apparently.
All
you need to
of the
subscribe to
channels.
all of them so you can get a constant drip of Crowfall into your veins every moment of the day.
If this is your first time watching...
Cece just gave me the worst look. Like, can't you just read the damn outro that I provided you? So,
if this is your first time watching the show, visit crowfall.com to learn more about the game.
Yes, thank you for coming if it is, and I hope we didn't get too, it wasn't just nothing but inside baseball the whole time.
Mm-hmm. And watch for more live streams and where we offer, and look at the game and the team making Crowfall.
Absolutely. So thank you again for coming in. Thanks for the questions, and we will see you guys next month.
And hopefully enjoy 592, which should be much more pleasant experience.
Yeah, so you're going to love it so much, you're going to send us your war stories. Hashtag war stories. There you go. She got happy. She's happy with me. I got one. All right. Thanks, guys.